Today is March the 26th, 2024. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. With me today is Dr. Larry Perkins, a professor emeritus
Yes.
of OSU with 30 years.
27 years here.
Okay.
And 2 years at Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay.
And then 3 years at Ball State University. Prior to that, at that time was Ball State Teachers College.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was at Syracuse University, where I got my PhD. It was at that time, was called a Doctor of Social Science. And I emphasized 3 disciplines: sociology, anthropology, and social psychology. And prior to that, going back, I was at the University of Nebraska for 3 years. And when I enrolled there, the admissions officer said, "Well, Mr. Perkins, your grades and skill level seems a little shaky here. You'll be on probation the first semester. So if you do well, that'll go off." And so 3 years later, I graduated with honors at University of Nebraska. And prior to that, I went to a small school in Minneapolis, Minnesota for 3 years, Northwestern Bible School. Billy Graham was president of that school. And I got that degree with honors, but it was much more biblically based. And people ask, "Oh, why'd you go there?" Well, I thought I ought to have value clarification in my world, and that might help me to understand who I am and what I'm about in my later life. And it was a good experience, 3 years there. Was youth pastor at a Lake Harriet Baptist Church in Minneapolis. And I must say, the first semester out of high school, that was 1950, I graduated from high school. I went there to Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1 million people. I was so homesick, what am I doing here? And I was flunking English. And I never took a book home in high school. I don't know why people did. They thought that must be the thing you do, take home.
So where was your hometown then?
Hometown was Stamford, Nebraska.
A small town, I think.
Small town, right on the Kansas line between Phillipsburg, Kansas, and Dorton, Kansas. There were 11 in our class, and graduated in 1950. And from there, I decided I was going to this school in Minneapolis. My folks, they did, whatever you want to do is your business. I had a younger brother, and so we went out of high school to Minneapolis, homesick. What am I doing? Fire engines, every fire engine, and metropolitan noise I heard. An interesting feature of that was you sent all your clothes home. You didn't go to the laundromat. We sent them home in a carton. And my mother did the clothes and sent them back. And we did that for 3 years. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is very hard, yes.
And but I graduated from there. And the day I graduated, went home, I got a letter from the Selective Service that said, "Your friends and neighbors have selected you to join the military." And I had been delayed from doing that because I was in this theology school. And I thought, which friends and neighbors did this to me? So I was drafted into the military. My brother, who was a year and a half, 2 years younger, he decided to go too. And so we both went into the military for 2 years, right out of that theology school. And that was probably the worst experience of my life.
53, 54?
54 and 55. I was in the military, stationed at Fort Sill. We kept the communists out of out of Oklahoma with our skilled, and I was in the medical corps and worked on an orthopedic ward and did that for 2 years. It was meaningful to do that, but I was not cut out to be in the military. I thought, well, maybe I could be a chaplain. And they looked at me like I was from another planet, and that was not to be. So, an early sociologist, French sociologist, Emile Durkheim, said, there is such a thing as anomie, where you are normless, where you can't fit in, and you just don't know the rules. It isn't that you want to break them or you want to be a problem. It's just that I don't know how to do it. I just don't know what the rules are. And that was 2 years that I had of anomie. I'm in the military. I graduated. They could never leave you as a private E2, which is what you go in as in the military. But I graduated the next rank up, PFC. I was so, keep the damn stripe, I don't need it. So my brother, though, he was not of that persuasion, and he graduated and went promoted to the military. But not me. I just got out by the skin of my teeth 2 years later. The best part of it was I got the GI Bill. And it was, by today's standards, that wasn't very much. $50 a month, that's hardly going to carry you. But it was quite a lot when I went to the Nebraska, and then whatever was left over, I took to Syracuse. Syracuse I'm jumping ahead, Syracuse had an interesting program with the state of New York, where I've forgotten what they called it, but it subsidized your tuition, gave it to you, just without any rhyme or reason. And being a graduate student, I got that. And that was wonderful. It was a way of helping me through graduate school. And I can't speak enough about New York State's liberal policy with regard to out-of-staters going to school in a private school, which Syracuse was, a Methodist school. So that's kind of where I came from, small town. There are two of us still alive out of that class of 1950, and still have good friends there. It was a great place to grow up.
Were you on a farm or?
No, my dad ran a lumber and hardware store in just a small enterprise, but made a lot of good friends. Had a creek that went by there, went fishing. It was just a great place to grow up.
Had either one of your parents gone to college?
No.
So you were first
My
generation?
dad was very academic. He had the complete works of Joseph Conrad, complete works of Tolstoy. I saw them there in the bookcase, but I never quite understood how you got into those. Those were, at my age, were not very important. But he had books that fit my age growing up, and I just loved them. Comic books were the key of my life. Got them in the drugstore across the street. I always beg my dad for 10 cents to get a comic book. And I had a wagon, Red Ryder wagon, full of comic books. And I'd go down the street after I read them and exchange them with my friends, who they had, what they had. We'd do a lot of reading. I was very much into reading. And comic books, that's hardly but that's a start.
It's a start, yes.
And so I love to read. I look back on that, and that was a very good education. I never took books home. I probably graduated B or C at high school. I remember having a friend who he always took books home. I thought, my God, why is he doing that? And he got married in high school to a fellow, a girl that was ahead of him a year in high school. And they had a family, and he's since passed on. But reading was very much a part of my experience there.
Well, I would imagine church was too if you went into
Pardon?
church was probably a big part
Yeah,
too.
church was. Yeah, it was. We were Presbyterians, and we were supporting a missionary in that church. And my dad was on the session at that time. I was in the Presbyterian church, and they decided they couldn't afford to support that missionary because he was not a part of the Presbyterian network of missionaries. And he was so outraged, he just crossed our names out of the Presbyterian session, or out of the membership, and we left the church, because you don't leave somebody in Africa without due support just because they're not in the Presbyterian network. So we became Church of Christ, United Brethren, that was a church option that was available in that small town. I have a very strong Lutheran community in Stamford, Nebraska, and a strong Swedish community in Stamford, Nebraska. So a lot of my friends were Swedish and German Lutheran. And so they remained so. I've been back to class reunions and spoken at class reunions. It was an interesting community. Education was very important to people in that area. So that's sort of where I came from.
How did you get over your homesickness?
I just decided I gotta pass English here at Northwestern. I was D or F. I've got to get serious about this. I'd never been serious about education like that, and so I just dug into my books and finished with honors there. And but that kind of got me over the hump. A lot of good friends there.
Well, how did you get into sociology then?
From sociology?
From there.
I went to the University of Nebraska thinking that I think social science and history. And so I was kind of majoring in emphasizing history in the social studies at Nebraska. And I went to Syracuse, and my golly, the Civil War turned out the same way at Syracuse in history as it did at Nebraska. There's no need to follow that. That's how I understood it to be. But sociology, a faculty member at Nebraska, Paul Meadows, was a sociologist, and I loved his teaching. And he went to Syracuse as head of that department. And I followed him less than a year later there. But I hooked up with, at Syracuse, with a anthropologist. Let's see, I can't think of his name right now. But he took me under his wings, and I helped him. Whatever his name was, it'll come to me. He was interested in Filipino culture and specifically Filipino riddles. And so he collected riddles that the Filipinos used in their culture. And I indexed all these riddles in the library for him. And I was to be his, he was on my doctoral committee, as well as the sociologist, Meadows. Meadows had domestic problems. His wife he had to nurture her in ways that took him out of the classroom and were a problem. But Doug Hart, the anthropologist, he took me under his wings, and he said, now write your dissertation. I want you to write your main thesis from the first sentence. This is a study of blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to kind of tease it out in the first chapter. One night, he called me. He lived in South Syracuse, and I was in married student housing, or my wife and I in married student housing in North Syracuse. He said, come out here, we're going to do some work on your dissertation. And I still have the material. He had on the front of my paper, he said, "State your goddamn thesis right away. Get it out there." Oh, okay, I'll get it. But out. So that's how I came to terms with how he wanted me to write. And that's so we wrote it up. I made a study of, for my dissertation, we went up north of Syracuse, between Ithaca and Rome, to a small town, Boonville, New York. It was a ski resort town in northern New York, and studied leadership in a small rural community. I had done a lot of work like that at Syracuse. And we lived there over a semester studying, doing newspaper research in the local community, identifying the leaders, and going and interviewing them for the research. And we did it on our dime. Didn't have any grant, no support other than this is what I'm going to do, and we did it. And the anthropologist went up there, Doug Hart, and he said he couldn't believe we did this all on our own, and wrote that up. And I think it was a good piece of research. And the painting place was going on next door in that community. And boy, they didn't want their ideas to be part of that legacy of being a painting place, scandalizing the community. And I had no intention of doing that, but really made it's a very interesting study. But one of the school teachers in the Boonville school became friends of ours, and he said, "Well, let's go out and bust some snowbanks. You know, get in your car and just go as hell and just crash into these snowbanks that are in the road." That sounds pretty scary to me, but that's what they did. And they just saw that as entertainment to do that. One of the people I became acquainted with there, who was an older man in the community, he always lent his car to people who were having a funeral in Boonville. And he said, "You never know when they'll need your services later on." So he always lent his car to people that are having a funeral to be a part of the burial procession. A lot of this is
Small town life.
Not very interesting to a lot of people, but understanding that community and the dynamic of how it worked, it's still a very nice community, beautiful community. So that's kind of something of my background.
I'm thinking if you were taught to write your dissertation that way, did you do that with your students?
Yeah.
So they studied it first?
Yeah. One of the things I learned teaching, my first job after graduate school was in Ball State University. That's an education-dominated school, college education as we'd call it here, or social human science, I guess now. And this lady, her name now slips me, but she was very important. We did NDEA scholarships, or bring people on campus to give them ideas and they take back to their school and enter and implement them. And then we'd bring them back and see how these ideas are working after they've been to the summer school and learned these ideas. Well, she taught me how to teach, how to listen to people. And you don't have to be talking all the time. You need to be watching them. Watch the facial movements of students. Are their eyebrow go up? Are their eyes twitching? Are they looking down, up, around? They're thinking. The body tells you they're thinking. And so what I learned out of that is when somebody's body movements began to twitch and move around, I'd say, "You're thinking. What are you thinking about?" And then we'd start on that. That would give you the cue to go in and begin to teach sociology through what they're thinking. I remember one time I was talking about technology, and Max Frisch, a German philosopher, said, technology is a way of so arranging the world so you don't have to experience it. You experience the technology, but you don't experience the world. You get in a car, you're experiencing the car, the inside of that car, but you're not experiencing the environment. You're seeing it go by, but that's not the same. When people in a covered wagon, they're seeing an experience up close and personal. But anyway, I'm talking about that and trying to develop that. And this little girl in the front row said, Dr. Perkins, is it true when you kill a chicken that they kind of flop around? I said, well, yeah, they do. You cut their head off, they just flop, and then you put them in boiling water and take the pin feathers off. But that was a question she had as I was lecturing along about technology. And that was one of the key points I would make in any class. You talk about where they are. Now, most faculty, and I condemn them for this, they say, oh, that's a good question. We're going to get to that next week. And they never do. They never do. So that was a question that, so if that's important to you, how a chicken flops around, that's important right now, and we'll talk about it. So always talk about, I remember having a class or not a class, but was in a music class from somebody from the music department. They said about Mozart, and I raised a question about Mozart, and she said, we're going to get to that. Never did. So don't ever, if a student asks a question, you go to it right now. That's when you start your class. And continue it, because then it'll go from there to somebody else. But you got to know what you're talking about. You got to know what your sociology is. So from that, we could go to talk about how we buy our chicken all packaged and good for frying or whatever. That's a technology issue. So anyway, that's very important. And she taught me how to see students with their body movements and to call on them. Now, I made the mistake. When I see somebody like that, I get up close to them and say, what are you thinking? And that intimidates people. I didn't know it at the time. This older lady said, you just scare me to death. You get right in my face and talk. Why don't you just ask me out here? Don't get there and like I'm going to...
You invaded their personal space.
Yeah, make it very personal. So that was something I needed to correct, getting too close to people, and I just get right there and say, you're thinking, what are you thinking about? And anyway, so she was a great help to me on how to lead discussion. And you lead discussion by not lecturing, but by letting the students into the dynamic and letting them talk about it. And OLLI is a way of doing that. You can do it through that approach as well. It's just a very important way. And she taught elementary education to beginning teachers. I'll have to give you a case in point with her. We had a nun from Cincinnati in one of our NDA classes that summer, and she went back and applied these things back in her Catholic school. She said, she came back, talked real, her name was Sister Kenneth, and she talked real, just a real machine gun type. And she said, she came up to me about what she'd done out of the playground with these kids. She said, this one child called the other motherfucker. I said, I just told her that's biologically impossible. In other words, she had learned what she needed to say. Sister Kenneth. And it just blew me away. But they were very open with you and talked about how you deal with kids. inner city kids will say, God, that was good. Well, you don't correct them because they said, God, that was good. You just take them from where they are and deal with it. And that's what I learned how to do. Take people where they are, deal with it.
I would think sometimes students might take advantage of that too and steer you way off course.
Oh, they could. But I didn't. In 32 years of teaching, that never happened. So,
that's impressive.
so
back when you first started teaching, was there an expected dress code for professors?
Well, there was for me. I always wore a suit and tie.
Suit and tie.
But graduate students would come in shorts and, like they just come out of working out in the gym or something. But I always had a suit and tie. I felt like I owed that much to the students. I look at interviewers on television now, and they don't have a tie on. So of course, that's me. But I would think when you're talking before millions of people, you ought to be dressed up in kind of a code. But that's gone by the wayside now. But
so were you still doing a suit and tie when you retired in 1998 or whatever?
No.
It relaxed a little bit by then.
Our son, who teaches in anthropology now at OSU, he doesn't wear a suit and tie. But
I don't know that very many do anymore.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. And I gave away all my ties. I must have had 40 ties when I moved out here to Legacy Village. And I thought, boy, at my funeral, am I going to be dressed up with a tie? I don't have one. So I don't know how that's going to work. But I'm going to be cremated, so that doesn't make any sense anyway.
So what was your specialty within sociology?
Social ecology.
Okay.
The kind of values you bring into the environment. What do you do? And so it was a value-driven course on how we impact the environment, what you do in the environment, so physical and social environment. And that was one of my key courses. I taught rural sociology. And since I came out of a rural background, I worked on farms growing up, working for farmers. And so I had an appreciation for rural life, still do. I remember we got a new faculty member in sociology, and his area was going to be rural sociology, and he dressed in overalls. I thought, what? I mean, that's all right, but he'd never been on a farm in his life. But he's going to show you that he's got the dress for it. Anyway.
So when you came to OSU was 19...
What?
When did you come to OSU?
1968. I interviewed from to back up a little, at Stevens College, which is a great place to teach. Here's this greenhorn me with these faculty that have been there 20, 30 years and are just scholars up to their neck. And here's me just tootling up here with more income than they had. And yet they were the ones that are the backbone of that college, and great teachers. And but they had a course they wanted taught called it was by amplified telephone. In other words, we hooked up with 4 schools: Drury College in Missouri, Bishop College in Dallas, Texas, Langston University in Oklahoma, and OSU. And we identified 3 or 4 scholars in anthropology, for the most part, who had written small books that were very interesting. And we'd read those books, and then we'd interview the author of the book. And we'd go around the horn from each of those schools, and they could ask questions about the book that we had just read and the author of that book. It really worked well. And but unbeknownst to me, we were having some technology problems getting the telephone amplification here in OSU. So we flew down from Columbia to Stillwater, and I was going to teach the course from here and then go to the other schools. Unbeknownst to me, they had just had a blow up in the sociology department. I mean, a blow up. God is Dead movement. I don't know whether you've heard of that. The God is Dead movement, and the president of the school indicated that he would not allow that to be taught, or even talked about. I guess I don't know all the particulars of it, but the faculty in sociology blew up and just left in mass, just left the university. Graduate students as well, and they were left with just a skeleton crew of sociologists left that probably shared that philosophy with the president of the university, Robert Combe, that he didn't subscribe to the God is Dead movement. And so I came down to teach, and they were looking for sociologists. And here I am, unbeknownst to me, they're looking at me, I wonder how you'd be as a sociologist. And they said, they were interviewing me as I was trying to teach this course. And they made an offer that if I would come to OSU based on that experience I had teaching the course on amplified telephone. And I told my wife, this was in January, boy, it was grim here in Stillwater. Grass is there's no green grass. No, this is a desert, Bev. Now, this is what you're going to run into. I didn't know this stuff greens up in the summer. I thought this is going to be a new experience for you, Bev. She had been in Syracuse, got her, she's a dental hygienist, and got her credentials there, went to Indiana, got her credentials there. Then we moved to Missouri. That's where she went to University of Missouri, Kansas City. So she knew about how to had those. And then we moved here. And I don't know where my story was going with all that.
They offered you the job?
Oh, they offered me a job as a result of that. And I went in. My prime focus is teaching. I love to teach. And I've learned that at Ball State, how to do that. And, this is a research university. And I told the president, I said, I'm not a research scholar. I'm not opposed to it, but my prime focus is teaching. And Dr. Combe said, as long as I'm president, good teaching is going to be rewarded. And he was true to his promise. I came in as an associate professor because they needed help. And in fact, I was promoted to full professor in 2 or 3 years. And I said, well, let's delay that. I want this to be meaningful. I just don't want to just go whip right up to the top and not having proved myself. So I even encouraged them not to promote me to full professor, because until I had demonstrated what I could do. And so that's the way that worked. But he then stepped down and was in the College of Education as a faculty member, Dr. Combe, and I served on committees with him there. But one of the experiences I had early on, I want to talk about that a little bit. Dean Grease, George Grease, was the arts and science dean. And we were in the early 70s. I came in 68. Early 70s, there was racial unrest on campus. There were marches and all kinds of stuff. And Grease called the department head in sociology. He said, we need a course in Black culture here because things are getting out of hand here. So I bicycled home from school and thought about what that course should be. He asked me if I'd craft that course. And I thought, institutional racism, that's what we need to talk about in the university. So I came back and told Dr. Acuff, I said, this is the course I think we could implement institutional racism. And he sent it forward to Greece that went to the regents. And they approved it, but they changed the name of the course. It came back, instead of institutional racism, they wanted it to be called Problems in the Black Community. Now you think about that. That's where they were. It's not any problem of racial unrest in the university and the way we do things. It's you, and that's not true. That was, and I'll never forgive the regents for thinking that way. But they still did. They didn't want to change Murray College because he was an out-and-out racist, terrible demagogue. But under Burns Harges, times had changed. And
that name's not there anymore.
Huh?
And that name's not on the building
The
anymore.
name's not on the building anymore. But it was when I started out, and attempts to change it. No, you're not going to change that. He was a governor. You don't change that. Well, just because he was out-and-out racist. So
Did you have to leave that title that way? As the
Yeah,
title of
we
that
did.
class?
I don't know that we did. That's a good question. I don't remember that we did. We certainly taught us institutional racism when we got it. Anyway.
Was the sociology department the first one that had a black faculty member? Or one of
She
the first,
was.
I
I
guess?
think she was. Well, no. Microbiology had
Earl Mitchell.
Earl Mitchell.
Yeah.
Great man. Great man. And he served on every issue, tension-driven issue about race. Earl was always there, supporting the black community. Great. And
your department was Patricia
Bell.
Bell.
Patricia Bell had a PhD in sociology at the University of Texas, Austin. She had the credentials, but she could have used them more. Well, I don't want to get into that. You could ask Stephen about all that.
Well, I had heard a little bit about the department, just everybody leaving, but I didn't know why.
They
why
were
that,
over
so-
the God is Dead movement.
Okay.
And one of the graduate students went to Ohio State, got his PhD at Ohio State, came back, taught in the department, Ken Kaiser. I don't know whether you know the name, Ken Kaiser. He was a part of those that shuffled out with the faculty. The faculty is scattered to the winds. And they were good faculty. They were well credentialed, had done all kinds of research. But they just were not going to let the hammer drop on that issue. And as a result, that's the way it happened. I remember the racial unrest, and just prior to that, the newspaper, we had panty raids. I don't know whether you remember.
I've heard of those.
We had them at OSU during that time. That was a precursor to what became streaking. And I had a student in that racial unrest, students would streak, and the news press, they wouldn't admit to it, but they kind of encouraged it. This was kind of giving us notoriety, not necessarily a positive quality, but they did it anyway. And I had one of those students that streaked, and I said, he was in class, and I said, tell me about that. I'd like to know more about how you decided to do that. Well, he said, I started on the north side of campus, took my clothes off, carried them, because after you run the race, you got to suit back up and get out of there. So he said, oh, it was very exhilarating. You can imagine I couldn't believe doing that. But he did it.
That would be a good sociology study.
That'd be a good study. I wonder where he is today. I don't know. But
Well, during that time period too was the Vietnam War.
Vietnam War.
Same
Let me talk about that. The Vietnam War. That was the best of times for me. Worst of times for a lot of people. But for me, it was just heaven sent. Oh, I love teaching during the Vietnam War. Students would say, and these are returning veterans, if you know the answer to a question, give it to us. Don't play this game of, tell us. Let's get to a question where you don't know the answer and let's talk about it. Now, you think about that. So most faculty they'll ask you a question, they know full well what the answer is, but they treat you like you're like a puppet on a string and see if you'll get the answer. I remember early on at Stevens College teaching, and all students at Stevens had to take an 8 o'clock class. Even though you've been up all night, you're going to take a class at 8 o'clock in the morning, at least one of them. And I had one of them, and I was teaching about social stratification. And they're all girls in there. When you have all girls, it's a different situation. If a male's in there, that alters the dynamic of how they ask questions. This is all girls, 20 or 30 of them sitting in this auditorium. And I'd just given a sterling lecture, as I thought, on social stratification, William Warren. And a girl in the back of the room says, "Do we need to know this?" And I said, well, not really. It's very important to me, but it's not important to you. You don't need to know this. But so girls, when they're in just an all-female class, are going to be very vocal and speak out. But you get a male or two in there and they shut it down. That was back in that would have been 64 to 66. They shut it down. Now, why am I getting into that?
I don't know, but that's interesting. Did that continue on it when you came to OSU? If more, the ratio, did you have a class with all?
No, I never had another class with all girls. Mm-hmm. One of the classes I had that was after that racial tension kind of settled down. I was teaching a summer class. And I should tell you, I taught nonstop for 32 years without a sabbatical. Winter, spring, summer. No break. No wonder I'm a blithering idiot today. But anyway, and one of those summer classes was Garth Brooks sitting in my class. And I was reviewing in my mind. I might have to say something about that. One of the paperbacks was Edward Abbey, Monkey Wrench Gang. I don't know whether you've ever heard of it. But in that book, Edward Abbey, I guess he was kind of a pseudo-anthropologist, they went around and cut down all signs that were to free up the environment. So we don't have to look at all these picturesque signs like this is something you ought to buy. Cut them down. So they learned how to weld and they cut off these metal signs. And I remember Garth liked that book. He said, "Oh, that was a good book." Monkey Wrench Gang, going around freeing up the environment from all these billboards that are dotting the landscape. So, yeah,
I know where you were talking about Vietnam.
Vietnam. Thank you. It was such a good time to teach because things were exciting. I mean, you talked. They wanted to know, but they didn't want you playing games with them. In fact, the soldiers that returned to the classroom. And I had students come in and say, "Should I go to Canada?" Because the selective service, which I was in, still on. And I don't want to go to Vietnam. And should I go underground? Should I go to Canada? And you're counseling students, trying to help them make up decisions about their future life. You had them out to the house, and I remember one boy and girl, young people, they were living in a dugout out south of town. Just things were different then. I said, we have a canvas big tarp. You take that and cover up your area so you don't have the elements in your presence. But the returning people from Vietnam and the students in that period, they didn't want nonsense. You taught us get out front on issues and talk about it. And then that period faded and went away. And I still was trying to teach in that compact context. And I was out. It's over. And then you just had to learn a different way of teaching. And I still lament, oh, those were the good days of teaching. Really great. The students, it was just a great time to teach. And I did it here at OSU. I don't know what it would have been like at Stevens, all girls. That's another issue. But
so that would have been the 70s. What was going on in the 80s?
80s?
I know that the economic bust, I guess, from the boom, well, the oil for Oklahoma was good and bad during that time period.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know about the
Nothing comes.
students. Well, they were very anti-welfare, against welfare. And it finally dawned on me, I had to learn this the hard way, just thinking about it. People on welfare, they just thumbs down for people like that. They ought to be out working and doing something creative and make something in their life rather than taking a handout. And it finally dawned on me, I put it together. I said, you know, you don't pay for half of your education here at OSU. You think you are. No, you're not. People of the state are paying for it. They're subsidizing you to go to school. You pay a tuition, but that doesn't cover much of the cost. Pays a little, but not much. And when you miss class, you are a welfare cheat. You are a welfare cheat because those people out there are working hard, paying taxes so you can go to school. And when you say, sign my name in on the class sheet, I'm not going today, you are a welfare cheat. And finally, boy, I'd hammer home one of those students treating people like that. But see, and Stephen has that right now in the class. They decide they can do without the class. That class dynamic is important. If you're teaching and what's going on in the class, and I think you need to be there to hear it and to contribute to it. I remember one time I was talking about demography and population curves and so on. And this girl in the front row talked about somebody fertiling somebody else. I said, fertiling? What are you talking about? How do you fertile somebody? In other words, and they have all these expressions. If you start out in the class in the front and listen to them talk, you'll find out what the language is. And that was one that they were talking about. And another was about blowing chow. And I thought, blowing chow? What are you talking about? Do you know what that means?
I have no idea.
That's throwing up.
Oh.
You're blowing chow. And you know, the expressions that students have, I don't know what they have today, but they have terms that are probably not linguistically, but that's what they talk about. That's the way they talk about things. Let's see, I had another, can't think of it. Something that somebody said. I'll think of it. Probably when I get home and sit down.
What was your favorite course to teach?
Social ecology.
That was your favorite?
Yeah, I think so. I don't, grades were not important to me. They are to the student. And students did well in my classes. I learned how that there were faculty, administrators on the campus that would guide, and they were very big pro-athletic department administrators. They would say, well, you ought to take Perkins' class. That's one you can get an A or B in. And I had a rural class, and I looked up the first day of class, and there were 5 or 6, class of 20, 5 or 6 huge black athletes sitting there. And I thought, are you into rural sociology? No. Somebody put them in there. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the department, College of Business in this case. You can get an A or B in that class, which just tears you apart to think that that's what happens. But they did that, and they probably still do it. They still do it. Best class, one of the classes I always had was, which is a kind of a off to the side, is a reading class, 4990, a reading class. And I've had 2 or 3 that took those classes that could really benefit from it and did. They read the material and we talked about it each week. But most of them, that's just a throwaway class. Throwaway class. They would never say that to your face, but they never read them, didn't have time for that. So it's just not reading classes, and Stephen will can tell you about that. And in anthropology as well. But one was a Lutheran minister, and he took that class, and 4990, ooh, did we read. And he really got a lot out of it. I know he did. I got a lot out of it. Just listening to him talk about what was going on in this book we're reading. So those are advisors in departments like to have those as a kind of a help the student get through, make their major, but they're death on a faculty member because they're not able to do the work or do it well, or they don't take it seriously. So anyway.
Did you serve as department head at some point?
No, never served. I was asked if I wanted to be, and I said, oh no, I don't want to be. I don't want to hear people's problems about being a department head. I didn't want that. One of the best department heads we had was Chuck Edgley. I don't know whether you...
I've seen that name. I don't know him, but
he's retired. He taught, well, he was a good teacher, but he loved to read. Loved to read. And you go in there with an idea from a book, and boy, we hit it off right away. He wanted to hear about it and talk about it. And he's retired now and lives in Rogers, Arkansas. As his wife has health problems, they live in the wife's son built a barn so that they occupy. He sent me a Christmas letter and he said, I'm now retired and I live in a barn. But he taught at OBU, Oklahoma Baptist University. And I had a course one time with Jerry Croft. He was an anthropologist and social geography. Jerry Croft, C-R-O-F-T, and he loved to do field trips, and we went to Minneapolis with a bunch of students. And since I'd been up there, knew a little about how to get around in Minneapolis, and but we had a good experience doing that as well. But I also had other interdisciplinary. That was something that I did and did enjoy doing, was teaching interdisciplinary courses, and I had been involved with geographers in doing that as well. Can't think of their names right now, but we did interdisciplinary courses. And that still remains one of my my main things. That library, as I go back to that, the university library, was just a godsend to me. I would go over there and find books, and you could check them out for a semester, faculty members. I just had stacks of books in my library. Read approximately a book a week, just going through them and getting ideas on them. And I would do that now, but my sight is, I'm almost blind in this eye. And so I can't read and do that as well. But
well, where was the card catalog in the library at that time?
well, you go up the stairs.
On the
and to
the
the
second
right.
floor. Okay.
There they were, just wonderful card catalog. I don't know what they did with all those.
I don't either. They were gone when I came.
Boy, it was a great card catalog. People were putting stuff in it and taking them out. But and the library was very well organized, and they didn't use the Dewey Decimal, I don't think, or maybe they did. Modern libraries went away from that.
The Library of Congress, but yeah, Dewey. Some do Dewey, and some do Library of Congress.
Yeah,
and then
must have
government
been
docs had a
Library of
different
Congress.
one.
Most university libraries were, but Dewey Decimal, we were still on that.
And then GovDocs had their own the Jackson system up on GovDocs.
Yeah.
GovDocs.
Yeah. And that's not my word or concern, but
I just remember I started in GovDocs, and I just remember rural sociology things on the shelf, and I'm thinking they don't do that anymore.
No.
So.
No. New books, I'd always go through the new books, check out what's available. Never lost a book. I had helped our minister at a Presbyterian church. He was getting his PhD. And I said, well, go through and find out what books you want, and I'll check them out for you. Well, you got to return these books, friend. I don't give a damn how important they are to you, but I'm very dedicated to getting the books back after we've checked them out at some point. And that wasn't very big in his world, but they were in mine. So get them back.
Get them back.
But I never lost a book or anything like that.
So I was trying to think. You were there through Campbell, the presidents that you served under.
Yeah.
Campbell.
I was later. After was who?
I don't know.
I
know Campbell was in there somewhere.
Yeah, Campbell came. He was a disaster as a president. He may have been a good.
I should know that, but I don't.
He was came from Illinois, and I remember we lived right around the corner from the city manager and head of graduate dean. And they said, oh, he's going to be a good one. Campbell. He was a disaster. An absolute disaster. And the faculty saw him as a disaster. And we had a faculty council meeting. I remember one time Campbell was chairing it. They said, John, they didn't call him, but John, that's not the way it is. Call the president John. And I can't think of what it was. But I would have to say, I was not at the university. Our son Stephen was. Burns Harges was the best president that I wasn't under him, but I worked under OLLI. I worked with Gary Myers, who was the secretary to Burns Harges. And if we had an income need or wanted to get something through the university, we'd let's go talk to Gary. And we'd talk to him, and he'd go then talk to Burns and work it out. But Burns went to bat for OLLI. He went to San Francisco, maybe on other business, but he certainly stopped at Osher, the guy that funded all the OLLI campuses around the country. And he was a garbage collector, garbage man. He got his money through collecting, I don't know,
sanitation or whatever the proper name
anything
is.
that nobody wanted, he collected.
Yeah.
But he went there and made the pitch for us to get the first $1 million. And he went back a second time to get the second $1 million. Now, we were in cahoots with OU at that time on OLLI. And they had a program, partnership with the faculty. What can I say? It was ongoing. It was just a low key, but meet the faculty and they'd have interaction with faculty, which kind of has an OLLI bent to it, but it's not OLLI really. And we were in competition with them to get these dollars that are out there floating around. And so we, under Ed Arquette's leadership, we moved ourselves also to Tulsa. And, you know, so we could have a large enough composite of people, and also to Barnesville. Well, Burns saw that we were going to need more money, so he goes back and gets the second $1 million. It's parked now in the foundation. And we use the interest rates off that, or we use the income off of those two grants. I attribute that to Burns and his going to bat for us. And Gary Myers was on the legacy board, retirement village. That's how I got to know Gary. He was serving on that board, and he was a good man.
Well, then let's back up and talk a little bit about that. Then you once you retired in '98, you joined the Maritime Association. And then some of these activities, the OLLI came after that.
Yeah, OLLI came after that.
And then the ranch.
Ranch is an offshoot from that.
Was part of that. So let's talk a little bit about
Ron
that part.
Beer was he was a dean of men, what would be called the dean of men here at OSU, and he's just dominant. He's just not going to take no for an answer. And we didn't. It embarrassed me. At times we'd go and talk to the vice president of the university, and we'd said our piece, and he's just still hammering away. Come on, Noah. We've made our kids. Let's get out of here. And he still wanted to talk about, and he was just, he's not going to take no for an answer. And we're out here at Legacy because of Ron Beer. Ron Beer just was a pile driver for this place, and Kara has shared his enthusiasm. But
well, we should explain what that is, so people will know
what
Legacy Village is.
Oh, Legacy Village.
Village is.
Well, we saw that I think it was Florida, University of Florida, had a very good had built a retirement village, and it was a very good interaction between the university and this village. And they shared not faculty, but residents in a gerontology program, and we could do the same here. We could use the faculty, or not the faculty, the residents of Legacy Village for research on growing old in these parts. And so that was a big feature. But early on, it was the retirement issue came out of the Maritime program at the university. And it was Ron Beer, and I was involved with it too. And Ron asked if I would be on the board. I think he thought maybe I could do some good or something. But anyway, so I was on the board, and we got a grant from Stillwater National Bank, which is now Simmons Bank, and we all put in money. I put in $5,000, or we, my wife and I, without her knowing it, which is probably, she'll correct me on that, $5,000 to the Stillwater Bank to see if we couldn't develop a legacy type village. we got people from Omaha to come down and make a pitch. We had meetings with them. These are bondsmen or that type. And they said the one they worked with was wrong for the most part. And we had somebody from Chicago. I can't think of their name now, but they were some of the key drivers in terms of before you get any bonds, you got a lot of homework to do, which we did. We had to have a business plan, and I said, "What the hell's a business plan?" People in the college of business would laugh at me and scoff at me for saying that, but that's true. How do you do a business plan, and how do you make that? How do you execute that? I don't know that Ron knew any better than I did what it was, but he was after the dollar. And then another group came in from Dallas, and we worked with them. And later, from the University of Georgia, they came in. They wanted to do this here. They would build it and then sell it. And I remember the head football coach at the University of Georgia Bulldogs was riding around in my car as we talked about still. I thought, my God, can you believe this? The head coach, and we never went with them, but finally, this place, you'll have to ask Ron Beer. Have you interviewed Ron? You'll have to ask him how we got this thing up and not running, but started to build it. And we were tied in with Epsom Village in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And and there was a CPA come on board with Epsom and with us that had the know-how and was going to show us how to do a village like this. And we went down to Epsom and toured that facility a couple times. Went to Montreux in Tulsa. Never went out to the village Inverness, south of Tulsa, but that would be another one. We talked to these people, and finally, I can't think of, Ron will have to fill you in on the details, but we got a grant, and they got started on building this facility. Oh, the CPA was the one that was the driving force along with Ron and got us going on this. And he was going to tap into Epworth to be give us the legitimacy that this is going to be a kind of Epworth type village. And it has turned out probably much like that. But he got in over his head. He was then the director at Epworth. And I remember we went down there, and a busload of us, to tour the facility and look at their villa homes around the edge of it. And we had lunch there, and his wife and others, they served us a very elegant lunch. And we were in the lobby, and the bus was out here waiting for us to board and go back to Stillwater. And the help is wanting to get this place cleaned up so they can go home. And we had a huge ice sculpture, 6 feet tall, that they had built in the lobby for us. And they wanted to get that broken down and get this taken care of. And this CPA, who was now director, said, "Don't do that until the bus is left. You don't go start cleaning up until things have cleared out here." And a couple months later, somebody sued Emma, that lived in Epworth, sued him for what he was doing. And Epworth went into bankruptcy to avoid further damage. And he was the one that got us started. And I don't fault him for I'm not going to defend him for what he did at Epworth, but I'm going to say he got us started on this. And it got started, and it finally went into the equivalent of bankruptcy because they we're not paying the workers. And when we finally got built, and this Western States out of Salt Lake bought it at a penny, just on the dime. It was just very, very low price they got it for. But I remember Halligan, who was out here, he was roomed in Legacy, and we were just moving in. He met him out in the drive, and he said, well, these things happened at OSU too. When you don't get paid, you often sabotage the work you're doing. He said, we had concrete poured in the pipes because you're not paying us. That happened here. So they built the facade. Looked like it was great, but boy, you didn't want to get in too close. It was all cardboard and smoke and mirrors. And they bought it for $20 million, which was, I don't know how much it was, but it was a very nominal amount. But it had a lot of things that went wrong. The main elevator, they overloaded that, and it's 6 months trying to get it fixed. We paid the money to get it done. Still not done. Still not done. And we go to both ends. Some people live on the upper floor and have to go down. It's a long walk or drive with your cart. So he got us started. I can't think of his name. He's no longer with Epworth, and Epworth is going its own way. But that is sort of the how this got started. And I remember one Sunday we came home from church, and I said, let's drive out there and get the literature on this place, which it looks like it does now, and see what this is like. So we got out, Bev got the literature, we went home and thought about it. Next Sunday we came out and had our cards all filled out, and we looked at places down at the end. I said, I'm not going to hike half a mile up to the dining room. And they had a model home for the one we're in, and they were using that to sell people on one bedroom type. And it was really nice, and it's just right next to the elevator, really. And we've lived here almost 3 years.
Okay.
Now, we've had one raise, and they're raising rents again with your birthday. We moved in May 2nd, 21. So May 2nd, my wife's birthday is May 4th. May 2nd, 24, we'll get a 6% increase in what we have to pay. We already absorbed 6%. Now it'll be the second 6%. One of the guys here confronted the director. He said, yeah, now cost of living in Stillwater is not cost of living in Salt Lake City, where this place is housed, you know. So 6% is going to be different than it, but that's the way it's going to be.
And it's a senior living community is what the sign
Senior
said.
living. We got independent living, assisted living, and memory care.
Okay.
One wing is memory care, and one wing is assisted living, and then people that are on their own, independent living. Independent living is probably half full, if that. We live on the first floor, and there's nobody ever been above us. And we've had water leaks. Getting the water system fixed was people was out with cold showers for months out here till they got that fixed. They got that fixed. I think everything is fixed now except the elevator. And we got to get that running because that serves both ends, both wings, and that'll get done.
Well, is there much research going on if you was thinking that from the...
No, we talked about that, and people come out here, but gerontology research, to my knowledge, now that may be going on behind my back, I don't know about it, but Ed could probably tell you if there is. I don't think there is.
I didn't think to ask you.
OLLI, one course is taught out here, has for a couple of years. It's the film course, and we use the film room or the theater room for that. And we've done that for 2 years. But Bev and I think, are the only legacy residents to take it. Why not? Well, it costs $140 to have an a cappella type, or to have one course plus the course, $40. So 140, and it'd be 180. 140 plus 80. Well, anyway, it's a little over $200 it takes a course. We do it just because we like to. It's a good course. This semester we're studying Ireland. They're getting ready to take Ollie's getting ready to take a trip to Ireland, and they want something about the IRA and the wars that went on. They're gut-wrenching films, but really good and informative. And so we're taking that. But there's so many things going on, the dynamic out at Legacy going on. Cooking classes. Yesterday they had the superintendent of schools talking about the new facility they're going to build. That's interesting, but I don't have any interest in. I don't know how that's going to work. But there's so many things you can do out here. I missed Oppenheimer. I wanted to see that, and they said, "Well, that's already been here." Well, I didn't. We missed it. If they took a bus down to AMC to see Oppenheimer, we missed it. We've seen several films down there through Legacy. Went to a Thunder basketball game took our bus, went down, which I don't need to do again. Once is enough for that. But we do a lot of things here, a lot of exciting things. OLLI could be more impactful out here, but they've got their own agenda of things going on, and most of the people are locked into those.
So let's back up then, how did you get involved with OLLI from the beginning part?
At the beginning part?
Or your earliest memory of being with OLLI?
I'm not sure I can.
Did you ever teach for it?
I've taught at OLLI. I can't think of Ed Arkwood would be the person that got me involved. Ruth Ann got me involved. I served on the board of OLLI, and always took OLLI courses. We went to Oklahoma City and made a pitch for people in Oklahoma City to join our OLLI. But see, they're kind of, and the St. Luke's Methodist Church features a very interesting program of courses from OU and from OSU to be taught in St. Luke's Fellowship Hall. Stephen taught there, and Ruth Ann always brought people in from OLLI to teach there, and OU had some great courses there. So that was kind of a pivotal point between us. But right offhand, I can't tell you how I got. I remember Ruth Ann was very nervous about how this is all going to pan out, and she's just a major contributor to how this turned out. She got to found the people, got them in here, and got them going. And
found the instructors and the members, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Both did.
Yeah, she worked all sides of the aisle. She did it all. And I don't know what she's doing now, but I'm
she's
sure
retired.
Is she retired?
Mm-hmm.
But she really got it going.
Yeah, she said she spent more than 40 hours a week on it when the sessions were going.
Oh yeah, she was a dynamo, And Ed was also, she got a big billboard next to the Fine Arts, or the Performing Arts Center in Tulsa. One of those great big, as you come into Tulsa, Ed and Andrea Arkwood on the billboard featuring OLLI for Tulsa. Tulsa had its own version of this at the University of Tulsa. It wasn't quite as captivating as the way we did it. And I think ours has kind of taken over in Tulsa because of her leadership. Good people in Bartlesville had great courses. That was a good one. And I served on the board.
So you would help pick out which courses to have?
No, not really.
Not really?
I think Ed and Andrea are more featured in that than I.
I mean, initially there may have been it was a challenge to get enough teachers.
Yeah.
And enough members, I guess, but it then all came together.
It all came together. I remember we met in the at the University Health, the gymnasium and the swimming pool area. What do they call that?
At the Colvin Center or
Center.
Seratine?
We met there at physical. Yeah, we met there and talked about, and we brought the bonds people in and they talked to us, and we had a lot of discussion about how we're going to do this. But I think it was the CPA, who was not with Epsom Village at that time. I think, I don't know where he came out of the blue. And he got us going, and we had a lot of different meetings in the Click Center at the Alumni Center, the Click Center, and featuring different items and things to go on. And he got us started. But Ed was kind of just quietly doing a lot of the finding courses.
Well, he was in your department, so I could see him.
Exactly.
Come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
And the elder hostel, he said.
He was in elder hostel.
That's what.
And things came out of elder hostel into this. Philosophy, Dale Lukey, he taught in philosophy. He was a big driver in all this. He's since passed away. But
it's been going now for almost 20 years. Pushing 20 years, isn't it?
It's going and going well.
Yeah.
It's taking some new direction under this new leader after Ruth Ann.
And more online stuff from
and
what
more
I
online stuff.
understand.
Yes. See, this is all out of my world. I can hardly do a computer anymore. Stephen bought me a new up-to-date computer printer. My gosh, I don't know more. I need a printer than I need what he thinks I do. So I got a printer. Online work, I don't do much of.
Well, COVID, I think, was the impetus to get
COVID changed
online.
a lot of things for the university, and it's just now coming back. OLLI is a success. It's still over, and I recommended a lot of people that should be on the OLLI board. And Ruth Ann would sort through those and say, oh, this would be good. No, I'm not so sure. And she made her determinations based on who you put forward. And that worked. She ran a good ship and was and I can't believe she's retired.
Yep.
Huh.
Hey, can you recall one of your favorite classes you taken for OLLI?
It's with Meredith Wilson.
As the student, yeah, okay.
Meredith Wilson. She was she's an active CIA agent. Have you heard of her?
Meredith Woodruff?
Woodruff. Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her.
She, her husband, they were in Europe during the height of the Cold War. Her husband was assassinated by the Russians, I think. She continues on, is very active, and if you want to know anything about the CIA, her daughter is the chief dietitian for the CIA in Washington. And she knows any and everything about what's going on in the world. And I remember a historian sitting in her class, a PhD in engineering. He said, I never had a course in history. Don't know anything about all this. And she just educated everybody about what's going on in the world, and does today. She was out talking to our group. It was a full house in the theater, talking about what's going on. Very active. Her husband, she's since remarried, and she's a native of Stillwater, and a CIA agent still. So you don't get a chance to, you ought to get a chance to interview her. She should be a person.
I think someone else has interviewed her.
She is, absolutely.
Well, current events usually bring in people, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how, but for our age, we'd like to know more about the Cold War going on and what Putin's going to do in those satellite areas around Russia proper. She'd know about it. Yeah. She'd know about it. And I don't know that most students are up to that level of thinking. They may be. I've been away. I retired in 95.
95?
95, I think. That's 23, 28 years ago. I retired 28 years ago. Good grief.
And why?
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you just ready?
I was 62. And I taught everything I know. I didn't. There was nothing more I could say that would. I was ready to retire.
Were you ready?
I was ready. I never looked back.
That first day afterwards, what did you do? Sleep in?
I think we took a trip. We went to New Mexico to kind of soften the blow while everybody else got tuned into the university.
And decompress?
Pardon?
And decompress?
Decompress, yeah. Yeah.
And weren't tempted to go back part-time or any?
No.
Done.
I've done it. I loved it while I was there.
So how have you spent your time since? Fill your days.
Reading. Go down to the public library. Read a lot of stuff out of the public library. I just started on the mystery shelf. It had rows of mystery. I'd start running down that, read those, read this, come back.
Well, that would make a good OLLI class.
Yeah, it would.
Mystery.
Yeah, I like to read, but I can't do it anymore. It's just too. I've read all these. What are they? I see them on the shelf here. I don't know what they are. The mystery.
Or biography. These are religion. This section is religion.
Yeah, but anyway, I've read all those.
History and religion. And...
I'm not into well, I am into religion, but not. It's a different world.
Yeah.
I'm a reformed sociologist, reformed theology sociologist. What that means is, I don't think, if you've been raised in the church, baptized in the church, you don't need to be born again. You've lived it. But that's not what a Baptist would say. You got to be born again. Well, and I thought that too at the time, but I don't think that's true. I remember my mother, when she was a toddler, she had to go to war. This was during World War One. Germans and with a war going on in Europe, and she had to recite a Bible verse. And she went up to the front of the church, and she said, "Kaiser Bill went up the hill to take a look at France. Kaiser Bill came down the hill with bullets in his pants." That was her scripture reading. Oh my gosh. Mother, did you say that? Yeah, she did. But anyway.
It's been a good life, huh?
Good life. The boys.
So Beverly said you had 4?
Had 2 boys. Andrew was difficult at school. He had difficulty at school. Beverly worked with him. And he's bought 40 acres of land. It's an interesting story. We looked around for land. He wanted land. He's going to not be a farmer, but just land. And the realtor said, "Well, here are 40 acres, just off, go out McCurdy Road to Sanger Road and turn south about a quarter mile, and there's 40 acres in there. They're just undeveloped. You couldn't farm it. It's cattle." And he liked it. And he went to the first Stillwater National Bank, and the realtor, or the rural realtor, who was an older man, this 24-year-old comes in, wants to buy 40 acres of land. That'll last about a year, and then he'll be gone. But Ruth Walker, who was also in that same rural loan office, she believed in Andrew. She said, so he put down his money, whatever it was, on a 30-year loan, and last week he paid it off.
And he still has
$600 a month for 30 years. Never asked us for a dime. He paid it off in 30 years. It's a human interest story.
Mm-hmm.
He never talked about it, never bellyached about having to pay this. He just went down and paid $600 a month for 30 years and bought it. It's his, clear. And he built his own home in that context. Not another loan. He just built it. And then work shed, which for machine and woodworking. And he does that for a living. And the people in California had his loan, and they just wrote a very perfunctory type of note: your loan is paid off, and there's $16,000 left in your account. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And he's happy.
He's doing and he stops here every night. 3 years, never missed a night. Stops here to talk to us. Get the paper, get the Tulsa World, News Press, and he probably reads more than anybody that goes to university, student.
Probably.
We have, I take the Oklahoma Observer, Smithsonian, and a couple others. He takes all these magazines. He reads them all, and he's very well read. Doesn't make anything of it. Good grief. How did we raise that child? And he couldn't get through. I thought, we just get him through high school. I helped him edit his senior paper in high school. I thought, oh God, I hope this passes muster. But he did. Just incredible. And he can build all these shelves. He can do it. And does it.
Wow.
He builds stuff out here, cabinetry for people. Could you build me something over our stool? I need oh yeah, that's not. He can just do it. He just does it. Now Stephen's a different breed. He's very tied to his dad, and he wants to do everything I did at the university. I was a Regents professor, he's up for that now this year.
Okay.
So he wants to do that because his dad did it, and he wants to be a good teacher, and he is a good teacher. Oh my God, he's a good teacher.
Yeah.
And,
I have heard that. Yes.
Oh Lord, yeah. But he teaches in a different way. It always bothers me, you know. He does field work. He started out in anthropology at Arizona State and in archaeology, but you know, he drifted over into cultural anthropology, and he teaches that. But he also does digs, and he goes up, and he has an undergraduate at the University of Oklahoma. That's where his bachelor's is. Then he went to Arizona State to get his PhD. He takes students from here and goes up to Newkirk, near Newkirk, north of Ponca City. They go out in the woods there, and that's near the river, whatever the river is, and they do a lot of research. The French came up from New Orleans and traded with the Wichita Indians right in that area. Wichita Indians had an encampment there, and they'd trade with the French for goods and for the pelts, buffalo pelts. And he takes students up there, and they dig and find out about where the encampment was on the Wichita Indians. Been there for 20, 30 years. And he did that for years. Then he went up to North Dakota, where Lewis and Clark went across, going down finally into West Coast. And where they had an encampment and an Indian village. He took students up there to dig. So he's into archaeology and very good at it. But what worries me, you know, all it would take is one student to say sexual assault. Just make that scares the bejesus out of me. But he always takes an older guy from Ponca City who loves to dig from Ponca City. He goes with him and digs with the students. So that's helpful. He hasn't told you this, but on his North Dakota dig, they came back. Two of the students made friendship. They didn't know each other going up, but they did going back. and they wanted to get married. And they talked to their mother south of Sulphur, Oklahoma, about getting married. And her mother said, "Well, why don't you ask Stephen if he'll marry you?" So Stephen went online, got the marriage certificate of what you can do, and went down there, and he practiced on his wife. And he went down there and married him. This is a very nice wedding out in the country. Very nice wedding. But they wanted him to be the two. I said, "Are you going to put that in your vita, Stephen?" He said, "Oh yeah, yeah." Oh, and he's going, and he's as a result of that dig, he's going to Colorado this summer on another dig. University of Colorado is paying for this, not the university, the state of Colorado, and they're going to dig around southeastern Colorado to find out where the Native Americans were housed. The buffalo left the Front Range and migrated out during the summer, and they would be out in this area, and natives would meet up with the buffalo and do things. So, interestingly enough, Stephen, I'm off on Stephen now. Stephen, there's an anthropologist at OU whose specialty is buffalo, knowing about buffalo and their ranging patterns. And he's come out with a book on the buffalo, not the hunts, where they migrate to, fall, winter, spring, summer. And I asked Stephen about this is an aside, women did a lot of the scraping of the buffalo hides. That, they had. Can you imagine? And Stephen said there'd just be a cloud of black flies over where they were scraping. Oh, the stench and the smell and the getting those hides cleaned. And he doesn't make anything of that, but I make a lot of it. I'm not going to be around black flies that are flying around my head.
We just they had to do what they had to do.
They used those scrapers to scrape the fat and stuff off of the buffalo. Beautiful hides after they were done.
So he liked playing in the dirt.
He does, not as much as Andrew. Andrew was the dirt. He just loved playing in the dirt. Stephen less so. But Stephen, my wife says, Stephen said, I'll never make a move unless I have Stephen go or Andrew go with me. Because Andrew, he'll take care of everything. He just knows how to do it. Just knows how to do it. And
so at some point, did you think about leaving Stillwater?
No.
Or OSU?
No, never.
Once you made tenure, you were here?
Yeah. I remember the guy that was dean of, what was he? He was a vice president. And I tangled with him over something. And he retired, but he was not, you have to be here 22 years to become an emeriti professor to get that rank or get that title. And I've been here 27 years. And he called me and wanted to know if I would put in a pitch for him to be emeriti. He was retired. I thought, what are you, come on. You don't need that. But he wanted me to make a case for him to be an emeriti. And he hadn't been there but 10 years.
Graciously say no.
Huh?
Graciously say no.
Yeah, how do you say graciously? You do your time and do it. OSU has been very good to me. They stood behind me. Ed was determined that I become a emeriti professor, and it didn't go the first go round. Carney got it, and I didn't. So but he put me in a second time, and I got it. But the university has been a great place. Good faculty. Faculty are just first rate here. I can't speak for what it's like now, but OSU has changed so much. Sociology faculty, it's publish. And Stephen has done his share of it, books, and been a part of books that have been published. He's got 2 or 3 that he's involved with, authorship, combined authorship. But it's a sad comment that people come here not to learn how to work with students and teach. Teaching is a fine art. To learn how to teach and to do it well. And I'm not sure I could do it now, but I did at that time. I was in my prime. But most faculty say, I got to write articles. I can't be bothered with teaching. Teaching is just an afterthought. You do that because you can get that out of the way so you can write.
Well, and there's not a class as part of a PhD that teaches you how to teach.
Is there one?
No,
Why not?
There isn't.
Why not?
Yeah.
There ought to be. You're right. There should be a class where you learn how to teach. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a teacher in philosophy. She was a retired missionary, I think. Hyla Converse. I don't know whether you want to scratch that name out. She was a bear. And you didn't tangle with Hyla Converse in the class. She was going to teach it her way. And I had a class just following her. And we were having an hour exam. And students wanted to get in there and get all set up to take the hour exam. And she was still hammering away on whatever it was she was teaching. And I said, I didn't want to tangle with her, so I said, go ahead and ask Miss Honver, see the bell's rung, there's a 10-minute switch between classes. And he did, and she just said, well, that could be wrong. And she terminated her class and they went in. But teaching is something else. Teaching is, for me, is what it's all about. I'm not opposed to research. I should mention to you, I did research in Southeast Oklahoma on my time. I didn't have a grant, I didn't have time off. My last class was Thursday. I went down to Idabel. That's a 3-hour drive down to Idabel. And then research Friday and Saturday, come back Sunday, teach. Did that one summer, several summers. And question was, why do people set fires on Weyerhaeuser land? Weyerhaeuser owned millions of acres in southeast Oklahoma, pine trees. It's a southern pine forest that goes from west coast through Tennessee, North Carolina, over into East Texas, up into southeast Oklahoma, pines. And why do people set these woods afire? The reason is, well, that we'll get hired to fight the fires. Weyerhaeuser has to put out the fires, they need help to put out the fire. And they hire these people to do it. But burning the woods is a tradition in southeast Oklahoma. You burn them to get all the underbrush out so you get grass for your cattle, green grass. And so they burn. Now, there's different ways of burning. They can burn to do that under the pine trees, or if they don't like you, or they got a grievance with you, they might burn your barn. Do that. Or they might take more exaggerated types of burning against you personally. But burning is a culture, and they do it routinely, and still do. So you go down in southeast Oklahoma now, you can smell the smoke in the air, and that's because they burn the woods to get them ready for spring greening up. So I go down there and interview people. And I had a graduate student. A lot of the graduate student didn't want to get involved with me because this is icky work. He had been in Angola prison in Louisiana. Big beer gut. And John, his name. But we hit upon how to interview. We'd go out, and I say, I'll take the like you do. I'll take the lead question, and you ask me. You do the asking me, and I'll say, John, how would I do that? We developed a pattern where I would interview, and he would ask me questions, and then I would ask questions, and John would do it, and we'd just interact and draw this guy in or this family and see what they're thinking. John, what do you think about the woods out here? Do you think they're safe? Can you get lost in these woods out here? Because Weyerhaeuser's building all these roads through the woods, and you get lost in your own neighborhood, can't find your way back. And we'd talk about these things, and they'd suck them into the conversation, and away we'd go. And we did that, really had a good pattern going. And I remember one time, Andrew went with me one time, I went down by myself, and I was interviewing this guy, and Andrew said, you know, you're standing right in this tomato patch. Andrew didn't say anything, and this guy didn't either, but I was interviewing him and right in the middle of his tomato, breaking all the tomatoes. But another person I interviewed down there said, and he said, that's where I grew up. You can see down at the far end of the road there, that's where I said, I've really come a long way, haven't I? But Weyerhaeuser, Dirk's Post owned a lot of that land early on. And they'd let you come in if you wanted a post for your shed or drive or something you needed for yours. They'd let you come in, cut a pine tree down and take it out of their forestry reserve, Dirk's Folk Company. But when Weyerhaeuser came in, they wanted you off their land. Yeah. They didn't want you down there meddling around in the woods. That's our property. They fenced it, and that just teed them off. Yeah. Teed them off. They would cut, you'd fence it one day and the wires would be cut the next. And it just was subtle warfare between Weyerhaeuser and the locals. Mm. Now, they may not say that in town when they talk to you. They'd say, well, that's a good economic investment in Idabel and the area. But you get them out in the woods and talk to them, they say something different about what they think of Weyerhaeuser. And they probably still do, I don't know. But the first study I did, it was kind of under Weyerhaeuser's supervision. And they thought it was pretty good. The people out in the woods said, well, you didn't tell our side of the story. Well, I thought I was. No, I wouldn't. So the second time I went down, I didn't go to Weyerhaeuser, I went to them. And I told their side of the story. And people really appreciated that. They said, thank me for coming down and doing that. I said, I tried to find a card, Hallmark card that would express our sentiments about what you did for us. There's no card for that sort of thing. and I still have a pack of stuff that they gave me. And we wrote it up, and John, I can't think of John's last name, John, and we invited the Daily Oklahoman to come interview us. And they came in and gave us a big interview about the research we'd done. And the local paper, and we hadn't touched the local paper because they are pro-Weyerhaeuser. Daily Oklahoman printed that up with a big full page. I still have it of John and me out in front of the classroom building being interviewed for this. And Smith's Idabel newspaper, I can't think of what the name of it is. They wanted to know, how did you get all this information? I'll tell you how, you just go down there and talk to them. Yep. And Weyerhaeuser just close off the road and say, we're clear cutting today, this road's closed. And not tell the people anything, and just do it. And how am I going to get home if you've got the roads all blocked off? And that didn't sit well with locals. You don't do it that way. You tell them what we're going to do, and you help them and work with them. They'll understand. But they didn't do it. They just, this is our property. You get off of it. Mm. So that's a different breed of cat, Weyerhaeuser. They probably changed their tune after having done it for a long time. But that was great research. I really enjoyed doing that. But it was out of my hide. I just went on my own. I didn't have a grant, didn't do anything. But we did it. And I put it in the library. You can go get it.
I'll go look when I get back.
It's not bound. It's not anything fancy, but it's research I did.
Okay, I'll check.
Somebody in, what was he in? Oh, forestry. He came in here. He just couldn't believe I did that. He got that booklet out. You did that? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. But the point is, you better be who you say you are. You don't go in there with some highfalutin. You're doing the research here. You better be authentic and have integrity with them. They're the people you're wanted. They better believe in you. I don't know whether faculty understand that now.
Well, they may have to learn it the hard way.
You may have to learn it the hard way, and
Yeah.
you might.
And if you say you're going to do something, do it.
You better do it and do it authentically and with integrity.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Forestry department down there said, now if you get in any trouble, give us a call and we'll come get you. I thought, how are you going to get me out here in the woods if I'm tied to a tree and not much I can do about that.
Yeah, tell somebody where you're going.
But yeah, tell us where you're going, where you're going to be, so we have to come get you, because they can get violent.
Yep.
And they don't. But if you are authentic, I talked to one forester. He did studies during the 30s when bootlegging was just big time. Bootlegging in the stills. And you have to get sugar. You go to Arkansas and get sugar to ferment the stuff. And he said, I just never, I'd see those stills out in the woods, this forester. I just never, didn't bother me. Got a still, fine. Hope it's good stuff. You just they're doing their thing. So if you get out in the woods, you don't rat on them and say this is illegal and unlawful. You don't, no. That's just the way it is. That's one of the things I had to learn down there is be authentic, be who you are, and I'm not taking the side of Weyerhaeuser. I'm not here to be a Weyerhaeuser spokesman. They got one of those Weyerhaeuser people cornered down there and just beat the living tar out of him. Just beat him to near death just because of his arrogance and not being you just gotta be who you are, and you ought to read some of the things they wrote me. You told our side of the story, and we never got that told in the McCurtain County Gazette, which is the local paper.
Yeah.
They were always telling the Weyerhaeuser side of the story. And there's another side, and that's our side. You could get how you start a fire. You take a book of matches, and you put a cigarette in there, get it lit, put it in there, put it down on the ground, and you can be 10 miles away before that catches fire.
Yeah.
They knew how to do it and did it, burned the woods. That was a good experience for me.
Sounds like you've had a lot of them, a lot of good experiences.
I've had a lot of good experiences. Some didn't like me. They got too low a grade. I remember one student
That happens.
yelled across the ball. He said, "Are you still preaching?" Yeah. If you're in a seminar, a professor professes. You are preaching. That's what you do. He didn't know that's what he was saying, but yes, I'm still preaching. He didn't. He was angry at the grade he got. Students had come in angry over the grade they got. Said, "I could throw you out this way." Yeah, go ahead. So I was on the fourth floor of the business building at that time. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. You think you'd get away with it? So, had a lot of experiences.
More good than bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, more good than bad.
Oh, mostly good.
And you'd do it all over again?
Well, I don't know how to do anything else except teach. I can't. That's all I know how to do.
But you're happy with your choices.
The choices I made. Uh, Wes Watkins is a retired congressional representative for the district. He was going around, he was sitting out there next to the fireplace. He's asking everybody what they did. And he came to me, he says, well, Perkins, tell us what you did. Because he knows everybody in Oklahoma by name. His mind is, and he was raised in a small town south of in southern Oklahoma, about like my community in Nebraska, real small town. He knows everybody. And I said, well, I started out, graduated in high school in 1950, went to Minneapolis, and here I am. And no people that he could relate to. It was just all issues that I had as part of changing jobs. But Oklahoma State was a good place to teach, good faculty. Sociology, or Columbia at Stevens College, great faculty. And at Ball State, I learned so much at there. Learned how to teach, learned how to lead a discussion. Most people don't know, do the squad how to lead a discussion. You know, they raise a question, you don't answer it, I'll answer it. No, let's keep quiet, let the people talk about it. In time, if you raise a question, just let the silence hang in the air.
Yep.
Somebody says, we'll repeat the question. And so you repeat it. What do you think? And then I'll watch the eyes. I said, Jane, you're thinking over there. What are you thinking? And all of a sudden, she says, well, I was just wondering, is it true that, this or that? And then we start talking. And then, let sociology come into that. And it'll always come into it sooner or later. And it happens, but you got to be patient. Keep your mouth shut. You don't need to fill the air with words. Just let them think. Be quiet, because it makes them nervous when you're quiet. And that's a technique I learned at Ball State. Let them think. And see that you're finding, I need to go to my notes and find some questions to ask. You don't have to. You just think about things.
Yeah. They'll
come up. And when they do, we'll talk about it. On your terms, always on your terms. And then there's a sociology principle in here too. There are 3 sociologists that I would like to think about. Robert Merton, Merton. My teaching is, I want you to understand, is to create meaning, social meaning. How do we go about creating social meaning? You can yell at somebody and that turn them off. Or you can start with them. Social meaning. When I said I had anomie, that was because I was in a setting, there was no social meaning here. I was an outsider in an insider world. Nothing I could do. I just spent 2 years. I gave you 2 years of service. Thank you. And I'm willing to do that. I'm not bitter about that, but that's 2 years. But C. Wright Mills, The Power to Lead. And the key point there is people have personal problems, but they're also public issues. A personal problem probably has a link to a public issue. And people down in southeast Oklahoma, they had personal problems. But that's also a public issue. And right here in the classroom, There are people that don't know how to take an exam. That's a personal problem. And maybe work with that. How could we do that in a way that keep your sanity? So there had to be personal problems, public issues. And I found that a very big key, but in terms of teaching. People sitting in that classroom, there's a person out here that I have breakfast with every morning. He's from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and his parents got a divorce very early in life. And his mother said, "You're going to have to help support us, 3 or 4 kids. You're going to have to support us, Chuck. I can't do it all by myself." So he had to drop out of school to help take care of the family. And he did. And he did. And he had health problems. He's married twice, died unexpectedly. And I look at him and what he's gone through. And he is the airline superintendent for American Airlines on the tail section of most of these planes. He works at night with a group. He ended up staff. And they wanted him to come back. But personal problems. Got divorced. You can't go to school. You've got to help support the family. And he did, positively. He wasn't bitter about it. He just had to do it. People do that.
And then who was the third one? What was the third one? He said there were 3.
Durkheim, C. Wright Mills. It'll come to me.
Larry Perkins.
Larry Perkins, yeah. Well, how we go in, it's the point is, whatever the author's name is, it's about in groups and out groups. You can do 2 ways of making meaning. Castigate somebody else. Make them the outsider. Make Trump the outsider. God, we're doing that big time right now. Or make Biden the outsider. You're a Democrat? Well, I'm a Democrat personally, but that's an aside. One of the first people we had breakfast with, he was a Trumpster. God, you are a Democrat. Why? Well, I don't know. I just am. How you go about creating meaning? It's by either including people or excluding people. And you can do it either way. Now, Jesus included people. The Good Samaritan. There's an interesting joke about Jesus was at the water well. And he said he was without sin. Cast the first stone. And his rock goes right by Jesus' head. He says, "Oh, mother, you threw that stone? What are you doing?" So Jesus included people. Well, Samaritan would be an outsider in the Jewish world. He wasn't a Jew, Jesus. And all kinds of people are outsiders. We are so anti-OU. Oh, we don't create meaning except if we can outdo OU in something. We flood the field when we beat them in the last game. Oh, God, how meaningful. How meaningful. Left them out. Got them. We got them. But you can do it the other way. And we don't know how to do that very well by including people. Nothing wrong with being a Trumpster. That's your world. That's fine. You don't need to get up in arms about it. But so we don't have much practice including people in our world. We have a lot of practice excluding people, excluding them, in group, out group, in group, out group. Thank God we're not like them. Thank God don't have to do that. So those are the things that were very critical to my teaching. You're not an out group in this class. We're in here to learn. And if it doesn't seem appropriate, raise it. Raise the question. We'll talk about it. I'll bring it around to sociology at some point. Or maybe I'll never get to it. That's fine too. So those are keys to my teaching. In-group, out-group. Anomie, when people don't feel like they belong, they're outsiders in an insider world. Right now, Bev and I are outsiders in this world here. These are all Trumpsters out here. 9 times, well, maybe not. They're Republican. Maybe not Trumpsters, but they're Republican. Now I could make them all outsiders, and
But why? Yeah.
why do that? They're good people. They're very good people, and anyway, those are the 3 things. Anomie, being an outsider and not knowing how to relate, personal problems, public issues in the out group. Those are fundamental to my way of thinking about teaching. OLLI, a lot of good courses in OLLI.
A lot of variety of
courses that you can take.
Variety, yes. And pretty easy to get to. Usually, the Stillwater Public Library, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
Initially, anyway.
We used the public library. We were.
And had cookies and coffee.
Yeah. Beer was upset, as was I as well. They charged us $80 or $90 to use that room upstairs where we meet. $80 or $90? Come on. Mm. So we all marched into the library, head librarian, and asked her, is there some way we could reduce the cost of this? I mean, this is a public service here we're doing, and you're charging us $90 or whatever it was. Seemed a lot to us at the time.
So you negotiated a little bit.
We negotiated with her, and she, oh yeah, we'll bring it down. Or did, I guess. I don't remember. But the library down there is wonderful. That's a great public library. They have Angie DeBow as a statue. And why isn't that at the university on the mall? Angie DeBow. What's that doing at the Stillwater Library?
That's a good question.
Bev and I went to Marshall, Oklahoma to see where she grew up. And you ought to do that. You come into town.
It's the widest street I've been on,
yeah.
Isn't it?
Have you been there?
I've been there.
Right, Boulevard?
Yeah. Huge.
That's huge. Angie DeBow grew up here.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. I don't know why. I haven't talked at all about general education.
Now, you were on one of the committee when they first brought that in?
Well, it's been around a long time, long before here, but a lot of faculty, teach general education. You got more important things to do than that. You're just teaching the great unwashed, those introductory courses. No. So it fell on me because I'm into general education. And, but not many people wanted to do it. You couldn't get a committee. Historians didn't even want to teach it. It ought to be their bread and butter. They had more important things to do than teach the great unwashed. So I was involved in a lot of general education. And I remember George Grease was the dean. And we had a general college meeting. And we almost came within 2 or 3 votes of voting out on the floor general education. Oh, if that had happened, what are we going to do? We got all these students that are taking these freshman, sophomore classes, and we're not going to offer them. Woo, woo. Came that close to doing it. But it survived, and it still goes. And Stephen teaches a lot of general education.
Yeah, I think they're looking at it again. So,
Are they? Good night.
So, I mean, it's something that needs to be
Looked at.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be front and center too.
What's killing Stephen and his wife, Kathy, teaches a course she's more of a biologist type, teaches a course in sociology for sociology students. And she just laments this artificial intelligence. They're getting they're supposed to write papers, and she said, I'll let you go the first time, the second time you get an F. And now the university has outlawed abilities to catch them at artificial intelligence. They've taken it out of the programming at OSU. Are you aware of that?
I know there's talk about it. I don't know all that.
Yeah, I think they have.
Yeah.
So how are you going to catch them and take it, and you use writing as a major fundamental part of your teaching of a lot of issues? I'll tell you a story about Stephen. In that new classroom, north.
NOC?
NOC is up north of, but they also have that classroom right there inside, across from the business, or from the ag building. It's that classroom building. Takes the place to the old classroom building.
Yes.
They took all the podiums out. You don't need a podium in here. Whoever said that, I don't know. But Stephen uses a podium. So, he had a big hoorah, brula, whatever. Bring back 2 podiums so I can have them for my classroom.
Yes, they come in handy.
Oh, yeah. So he's had to contend with whoever decided that. You don't need to take those. We'll throw them in the trash. And I did.
I'll pay attention more when I'm walking through the buildings.
Huh?
I'll have to pay attention
Yeah,
more.
pay attention how many. Steven's got 2 of them. He teaches all his classes there, and they're in there because he insisted that he have them. And then when they take away the way to get a handle on artificial intelligence, if you can't program and do it, so I quit asking the students to write, or else have them write in class. I don't know.
Write in class.
Yes. I guess you have to write in class.
And not on your computer though.
No. You're
do cursive.
You're going to have to learn cursive. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
So the university does things. I remember Ken Kaiser, one of those that left with and the God is Dead movement, left, went to Ohio State, got his PhD, came back, and he had his classroom, or his office right next to Stevens up on the 4th floor of Murray building. And he uses a lot of cartoons. He just papers his front door with cartoons that are pretty poignant. And Buildings and Grounds thought that was a little excessive. Took him down. And if you knew Kaiser, you don't do that to Kaiser. He marched into a regents meeting or a presidential meeting and just chewed ass. You do not take those down. Those are mine. That's the property of all this graffiti on his door. So people are in charge of the university as a board of warning ought to respect the faculty for what they do and how they do it and why they do it, and to let them micromanage their classrooms. Don't tell them, oh, you don't need that. You got this. For me, it was chalk and eraser. I mean, you go home at night, you're just full of chalk, and now it's those pens, and you can just erase it with a cloth.
Yeah.
But that's a new and better way, I suppose.
I don't know. I miss the other.
I miss the old. Yeah, I miss that. That's the way I grew up. And we used to make, in graduate school at Syracuse, we made little ashtrays out of paper. Crick in the corner, and you wouldn't do that now. You wouldn't smoke in the classroom. But we did, and we did here.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and the seminar.
Well, I mean, that was, smoking wasn't, yeah.
Has always been, no, you smoked. I smoked at the time. And I was at Ball State, I think, in 1964. Yeah, it would have been there, 64, when the Surgeon General's report came out and said smoking is detrimental to your lungs. Dawned on me first time. So I quit smoking. Isn't that amazing?
That is.
But I sucked on hard candy for a year. Oh Lord, the oral.
Yeah.
Took a long time to get over that. Stephen never smoked, and nor Andrew.
Well, I'm thankful that it's a smoke-free campus
Oh
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Nice.
smoke at on the library now. Wouldn't that be something? If somebody came in smoking a cigarette, you wouldn't do it.
You would do it.
You did back then. A lot of interesting people.
Including yourself.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, when we've covered a lot, do we need to get you to lunch? It's 12:30.
Well, I don't know. I didn't say much about OLLI.
Well, you can wrap it up with, if you want to say more about OLLI.
Well, it's a good program. It has a difficult time finding a niche out here
at Legacy.
And I don't know. There are too many other things going on here. Down in a Legacy resident will stick their head in the theater door. What's going on in there?
What do you think? It's the membership fee is too high?
I don't think so. These people, I don't want to say that they're
just too many options.
Too many options. There are too many options, and this is just one of those many options. They're not opposed to it. It's just, but I don't think you'd get very many more courses out here. But that's a good one that fits out here because they got a nice theater and so on. But OLLI is, I'm glad to know what they're doing. Ruth Ann was very good to me. Got me going.
Well, they had town halls and then classes.
Yeah,
and then
town halls were great.
And then travel.
Yeah. We took an OLLI trip to western Oklahoma, and it was a ag person that was his territory, western Oklahoma, whatever they call them. We traveled all over western Oklahoma in one of those nice big buses, and we just saw all kinds of things in western Oklahoma, an OLLI trip. And he knew the rural agents out there, and we'd get all hooked up with them. It was just a great experience. You'd never see Oklahoma like that on your own, but you did it through OLLI. And
no man's land.
Huh?
No man's land.
It is looked at that way, but it's not.
No,
it's not. It's gorgeous territory. Slap out. Can you believe that? Yeah. Slap out?
Slap out of everything.
Just out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's where Stephen's going this summer, out that area. And he's going up there. He said, you better all be wearing these tall leather leggings because there are going to be rattlesnakes out there in this trap in the woods and terrain because it's rattlesnake country. But they got a big mansion out there that they're going to use as a kind of a focal point, shower and sleep in the area. But one of his first students, he went up to, as I mentioned, North Dakota, these 10 students. One of them, I don't know which one, it just rained cats and dogs. And she came into Steve and said, I want to go home. I'm out here in the woods. What am I doing out here? And, you have to mother them and get them to settle down here. We'll make it through this. So he can do that. And I think that's a great tribute to him. And he loves to do it.
He got some of your skills too.
Maybe some of those skills.
Yeah.
You don't know. Maybe. This is a great part of the country, the Plains area. Now, many people on the East Coast, East and West Coast, are good grief. You live out there. This is no man's land. No. There's a lot of stuff going on out here. A lot of stuff. 4 of us. Ed was one of them. Ed and his wife, and Ken McKinley. I don't know whether you know Ken.
I know the name. I don't know
He's
it.
Was a research person in education. He grew up in Iowa. And who else was it? Somebody else was with us. Oh, the assistant Redding. He was in student union. He was assistant manager of student union. We all went up to Iowa, and we stopped in this little restaurant, and the lady, and now all the pickups are all jammed in there, and there we are. We come in, and the lady says, I made an elderberry pie. And I said, oh, maybe that'd be good. We'll try one. And I was starting eating. I said, did you get an elderberry? No, they didn't get an elderberry. And that's a joke. And I still laugh about it. I didn't get an elderberry in that pie. And I don't like, what's the thing that grows? I can't think of it. And you use it in pies. Oh, it's sour. Oh, it's sour. And I said, don't show me any of that. I don't want any of that. I can't think of it now.
All I can think of is rhubarb.
Rhubarb. That's it. It was rhubarb. I'm not into rhubarb. And it became a joke on our trip. Perkins and his rhubarb, trying to get him to eat rhubarb.
It's good with strawberries.
Yeah, see, now you like rhubarb.
With something.
Yeah, it's got to be with something. It's got to have some sweetener.
It's been a long time since I've had any, though.
Yeah. They don't have much of it out here.
I don't think I've seen it out here.
Yeah, I grew it in my garden. I was a big gardener here. Half of my backyard was in the garden. I'd bring buckets of tomatoes in. Oh, would I go?
Nothing beats a homegrown
one. Nothing beats a homegrown tomato.
Yep.
And
cucumbers. Those are two
and
best
cucumbers, things. Squash. What are the little hot peppers?
Oh, no,
jalapeno peppers.
I'll pass on those.
Oh yeah, you had all those.
Too hot.
Made a lot of Mexican food. Loved New Mexico. We rented a cabin south of Taos from a person I met at Ball State. And he said, I got a friend who's a superintendent of schools in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And they have cabins along the Rio Pueblo River, about 30 miles south of Taos. And so we rented one of their cabins and did that for 20, 30 years. Every summer we'd go out there to this cabin. And then we'd go to Santa Fe and go up to Shemao. Are you acquainted with New Mexico?
Taos and Santa Fe, yes.
Well, Shemao is between this cabin and getting to Taos. You'll go right by Shemao and Weavers, where the Weavers are. Oh, there's a great restaurant, great Mexican restaurant. Oh, but see, that's in the past. But then we've done all that. Go to Santa Fe, Albuquerque. Hear about the guy that drove into Phoenix. He said, "What's the name of this town here?" The guy said, "Phoenix." He said, "Well, you know, this is the first time I've been able to pronounce it since I left Albuquerque." Albuquerque. oh, God. I remember on that Rio Pueblo River, I was reading a book down next to the river. Our cabin was over here, and the stream goes right, just boiling, beautiful stream. And out on the sandbar is a snake, and it's got a trout in its mouth. It's, the snake's jaw will disengage to get the snake in, to get the trout into its inside, and it couldn't move. It's and I'm down there watching this snake try to consume this snake. He can't do anything about it. He can't be scared because he got this trout halfway in his mouth. He can't digest it, and he will in time. But the great stories.
Oh, yes, your sense of humor has kept you going, so? Huh?
Huh?
Your sense of humor has been key, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
I don't.
Yeah, humor's good. Laughter is great.
Yeah, I take it out on Beverly. Humor is not in her world. It's not that she likes to laugh, but I would state a joke and then make her the butt. Oh, don't drive about that. And we keep our sanity.
So what brings you joy today?
Well, the two boys. I just can't get over Andrew. I didn't realize we didn't know he was buying that land, $900 or something like that, $600 a month. We didn't know that. Never said a word. He's so quiet. You not met him. God, you ought to get to know him. Built his own house. He just screamed as a young. He had asthma, and I have asthma, but he had it, and he just in his rage and having get his air said, "I didn't ask to be born," and he meant it. It was tough, and he is tougher than a boiled owl. I don't know what a boiled owl is like, but he is tougher than whatever you put in that. He is tough and can do it and does it. He'd like to be married, but didn't work out. 2 or 3 dates, that's the end of that. But he's poured his life into what he does. People just swear by him. He's just such a sweetheart. Gentle man. So that's what gives me joy. I'd like to see Ruth Walker. She was married to one of the premier builders in Stillwater. I think they got a divorce. I think they're still friends, but she's the one that stood by Andrew and said, you do this. I'll support you. He did it. She doesn't know that yet. I don't think she knows that he paid off his loan. I don't know. Her mother was out of Primrose. And
Well, everyone needs someone in their corner, don't they?
yes, they do. You need somebody in your corner. Stands up for you.
Yeah.
And Stephen's got those people. One of the head people in the archaeology department at OU, which is one of the big archaeology departments, had not ever received the national honor for being an archaeologist. So Stephen wrote all the letters to the people that he knew, that Richard knew, and they endorsed him to get this honor at the national meeting in, where was it? Santa Fe? Santa Fe. And he didn't know he's getting it. His wife knew it, and Stephen had done all the homework to get the letters together and to get this reward. And Stephen did it for him. Didn't have to do that.
No.
The one that in the department, the archaeology department, that is his peer, she got it, but she didn't work to get him to get it. She had that Stephen done up here at OSU. He got it and how much that meant to him.
Right.
So each of us has something to contribute, and we do it in our own way, and Stephen does it. He wanted me to do this interview. He just, he set it all up. I couldn't get the damn computer to type, and so he set it all up.
Yeah, he was one of the first faculty members I met on campus
Was he?
when we first moved here, and he was just nice from the get-go.
It was what?
He was just nice from the get-go. From the get-go.
He's that way. He's that way.
I see where he gets it, though.
Oh,
You're good, too.
But
Well, I think we should wrap this up. My last question will be, how do you want people to remember Larry Perkins?
I did the best I could. I did. I couldn't do it any other way. All the kinds of people that stood behind me and said, "You can do it." And my wife was the premier cheerleader. Oh, I'd lose confidence. You can do it. You can do it. I've had a lot of support, and made it happen. And you'll do that for your daughter,
Son.
You'll do that for your son.
So we should say your wife's name is Beverly.
Her name is Beverly.
How did you meet her?
It was a blind date.
Okay.
It was a blind date. I thought, well, she'll be about 300 pounds, and this will be the way that goes. And I went home, I think, a couple of weeks later, and said, I found the one. I knew she was going to be the one.
And how did you pop the question? Or did you?
I don't remember. I don't remember. But I just knew that she's going to be the one. Oh God, what a helpmate. What a helpmate.
And was she from, where was she from?
No, she was from 200 miles away.
Oh.
She was from York, Nebraska, one of the richest farmland communities in Nebraska. And her brother was a dentist. And he said, Beverly, you might think about being a dental hygienist. And that she went to Nebraska Wesleyan. She was one of two in her class. They were two in that class. I said, were you valedictorian, Beverly? She was. And she went to Nebraska Wesleyan to get a little college experience and take chemistry and some of the things she was going to need. Then she went to the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC, and got her dental hygiene license there. Came back to Lincoln to work in 2 dental offices. And at that point, I'm bopping around, and one of her roommates said, I think he's about ready to stop that relationship, and he'll be available. and she set us up. We talk about that still. Jan Broccoli, I wonder where she is or if she's alive. So we've been married 64 years. But she was a great, great help. I couldn't have done it without her. But there were a lot of people along the way that believed in me.
And she didn't mind moving to Stillwater?
Well, I said, it's awful drab in December. The grass is all looks like desert. I said, I don't know. You better be prepared. You went to Ball State. This is 1963. And they party every night, Friday night. And it spills over into Saturday night, and sometimes Sunday afternoon. And they drink martinis. Do you ever drink a martini?
Mm-mm.
God help you. Jan was a little wave the bitters over it. And about one of those you'll wobble around on your ankles. But that's what they did at Ball State. God, they drank the martinis. Whew. They're strong, and you have to be careful. And Bev was pregnant in the second year, I think, with Stephen. And our friend, Nancy Baldwin, said, did you drink those? Boy, she said, boy, those things were strong. And Bev was just drinking water with a martini with a
olive in
it. She said, boy, those things really put you away. And she didn't drink during that period. But then we moved to 3 years there. Hard drinking. Sometimes at noon on Friday, we'd all go have a martini before we went and taught class. God, this is tough sledding here. Anyway, we got to what is the place?
Syracuse? No. Syracuse?
No, Columbia, Missouri. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they all drink sherry. Just this is like have a glass of Kool-Aid. And so they'd play bridge and drink sherry.
And then OSU what?
She was beer. Come here, you drink beer.
Oh, okay.
And they do. The department goes down to this place near the Ace Hardware. You know that place?
Mm-hmm.
They Friday afternoon, and that's a good thing to do. Binds the department together. They go out and have a beer and talk. They got a nice patio out there. And that's the thing to do, beer. That wasn't true at Ball State. It wasn't true at Stevens, but it was true there, here. And I like beer, but I'm not. My main doctor here said, I don't know if he knew whether I drank or not, but he said, you probably ought to not drink. I'm 91, so you ought to take that into consideration. And I do need to do that. And I did. I quit. It's just not appropriate at this time in my life. And I don't need it. So.
I think that's a good note to end on then. Let's just say thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been great.